Hey everybody, welcome back. I hope everybody had a good New Year and happy holidays, Merry post Christmas, all that good stuff. What I'm going to be doing today, it's going to take a while, so sit back, relax, grab something to drink, or hopefully you guys are doing some comic book work or illustration work. And if you're interested in doing so, like watching this, probably just put it on in the background, come back, and check out and see how the video is going. What we're going to do is ink this right here, and I'm going to do this in real time. I'm going to make a conscious effort to do this throughout the year, which is record real-time videos. And the reason for that being, I honestly had no idea that you guys would actually be interested in this. But even though the views weren't that high on the initial video that I did that was similar to this of real-time inking or drawing a comic panel, it was the feedback that you guys gave, and a lot of you were very positive and supportive for that. So I wanted to say thanks. And again, like I say, I had no idea there'd even be an interest in that, solely based on the fact that it takes so long. It's like an hour to 2 hours long, to do something. But who knows? I had no clue, right? So that's what we're going to do today. Now, what we're going to be working on here is I've been asked to do the initial cover for OXYMORON. This would be the anthology number 2, the cover for it. I'm just going to post on the screen here, so let me bring it over. This one here I did back in 2002, so this is about, well, I guess this video is going up in 2015, so I'm going to go ahead and say 2 years. I'm going to wrap it up before 2015. It's just this video is getting uploaded a little after. This is on my DeviantArt here. Let me just zoom back out so you guys can see it. This was done way back for ComixTribe, more as like a thank you. I had just gotten work with the Standard with John Lees and stuff, and I just started to become friends, with Joe Mulvey, Tyler James, all the cats over at ComixTribe. And I just wanted to draw a little picture of their character here, OXYMORON, for fun. But Tyler enjoyed it so much that, from what I know, we went ahead and made this the cover. And this is done in Manga Studio, and there's a lot of like sloppy rendering in there. I'd gone in and I tried to tighten it up, but like I said, this is 2 years old. Hopefully, I've come a little bit in a longer come together, I guess, a little bit better as an artist, understanding rendering a little bit better in the program Manga Studio as well. So there's things here like the blood splatter on his head that I'd never really do. I do like the idea of like the organic blood splatter, but this was done in Photoshop, those blood splatter patterns, because this would have been done in Manga Studio 4. And from what I had known, or at least at the time, and still today, I don't know how to get these textures. And Manga Studio 5, I can do that, but I haven't set up Manga Studio 5 to do that. So we're going to see how this goes. I do like the idea of keeping it kind of gritty, nasty, like all the folds right here in OXYMORON's face. I love that. So I'm actually just going to put this over to the side here so I can look at it while I'm inking the new cover here. Let's just put this stuff on the other side. Okay, so let's get this going. So the workflow that I'm currently using right now, I had done this in Photoshop. What I'm going to be doing is bouncing back and forth, not with you guys, but in future projects, doing this sort of thing. Let me just zoom in here so you can kind of see. It's using like this 3-pixel brush. It's the Freddie Williams method, the DC Comics Guide to Digitally Drawing Comics. It gets me this look right here. But from here, what I do is I'm just going to start inking specifically in Photoshop, in Manga Studio, because I can get the rendering comes out better. I've been trying, and like the closest thing I can kind of get is like this sort of stuff here. But there's jaggies, and I can't really get really fine lines. Not a fan of it. But what I do like with the line art stuff is this simple brush. If you look at all this here, this is all done with a 3-pixel brush. It keeps it, the art is there, like these hands don't really look that hot. The art's there. Once we go in there, we start throwing in the blacks and stuff and the inks. That's what's really going to make it punch, hopefully. And I think we're pretty much good to go here. I'm just trying to take a look around. The first thing I always do is I have 2 monitors, right? So I'm going to go up to Window. Thank God Manga Studio 5 has this. I'm going to go New Window. And you can see there's 2 new tabs here. Whatever you do in one's going to happen in the other. I'm going to drag this one actually off screen. You guys won't be able to see this. I have a monitor, like I said, I have I have a 2 monitor setup. Man, hopefully we're not stuttering too much in today. But what I'll do is I just bring this over to the side here, and I just adjust the size so I can see the entire comic page on my second monitor. Sometimes, like if I'm not doing a recording like I am with you guys, the monitor I have, it rotates so that it kind of looks like it's an 11 by 17. So let me just draw in here and show you guys what I'm talking about. So monitor looks like this. I can also rotate it so that it goes like this. And what's really cool about that is it's in my opinion, it's a comic book monitor. Meaning that this is more akin to an 11 by 17 monitor or a piece of paper, Bristol that you would draw on. So when I'm doing a cover, I can still zoom in, get a nice rich look at the page without it being too zoomed out, and it fills the monitor perfectly, which is really good. And then sometimes I just keep it horizontal, especially if we're working with a lot of reference and things like that. So normally what I would do with inking is I would crank music. So this is going to be interesting. I don't know how much talking we'll do. I'll try to keep it going. Just like the last one, I think that's the hardest part of these videos, guys, is especially when they're this long, just talking. Okay, so what I like to do, since I brought this into Photoshop, what I do at the end of everything that I ink in Manga Studio that I know is going to a colorist. Okay, I just want to highlight that. One of you lovely people told me about this. I had no idea. So thank you for letting me know, and since I found out, I've just always done it now. I don't know how your windows here are all set up, but under when you click on the layers, you get this thing. It's called layer property up here. This is where you change your line art color and stuff. Expression color. This is what gets your file sizes real nice and small. So let's just zoom in on our face. It looks real gross because it's all one size brush, right? It's right now. Let's see. It's this layer here. So I'm going to click that. It's on gray, right? Default, I think you can always change this, but you can always have it on color. I don't like doing that. When you're working with it, I guess it's fine if you're going to be doing like blue and red pencils and things. But once I'm done with all the art, I flatten everything and I change it to monochrome. And what monochrome does is, if you look at this is sort of where Photoshop I dig, because Photoshop I can adjust how much this happens, and I could make a threshold layer. That's what this is basically doing. Which is what it's doing is it's just making it black and white. That's it. There's no grays, nothing. If you zoom in, you'll never see a gray. It looks like old school, like Galaga or pixel art. And it's a bitmap image. Once I save it like this, it is such a fraction of the size. Even if I just went to gray, let me just show you here. So I'm just going to go to gray. Gray is nice to work with because I can build things up, but look at all the gray that's in there. That increases the file size pretty decent, even though it's just black and white. Okay, so you're going to see me, once we're done, we're going to be doing all that. The only reason I brought it up is because right now I'm just doing black and white. All of my layers are going to just be that. They're just going to be monochrome until we're done, or gray, sorry, and then we're going to go right to monochrome, okay? So I'm just going to group this up into here. I'm just going to call this inks. I don't know how many inks or layers of ink we're going to have. What I got here, Oxy 2 cover inks. Okay, cool. Let me just save it, and we can get started. Okay, should be good. All right, so let me just take one look, because I know there's one thing. I'm just trying to. This is usually done organically, where I'm gonna look and I'm like, all right, what am I doing with this picture? What are my intentions? One thing that I had forgotten that I noticed here is there's a lot of blood going on. The OXYMORON is definitely he's basically like the Joker, but more of like a serial killer. Like just crazy, just kills people in an OXYMORON sort of way. But he's painting this clock behind him in blood. However, he's got no blood on him, and he's got bloody people beneath him. A lot of blood. Let's just have blood. Let's do lots of blood. But I didn't draw any blood on him, but I need to draw blood on him. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to make a... it's going to get kind of interesting here. I'm going to make a new folder here. I'm just going to call this blood. And when I do the inking underneath, let me just rename this here, inks. Above... blood inks. So the above blood inks would basically be the you'll see. So blood. So I'm going to make a new layer. I'm actually going to change it to a marker here, CTEC. I just want to make sure this is the same width as my 3 pixel brush. Actually, probably go up a little higher. Really, eh? Go even higher? Jeez. Let me zoom out and see how it looks. Yeah, that's fine. And what I'm doing is I'm going to be doing this effect here. If you look at all the piercings, these won't look as lame as they do once we get into the inking, but do you see how it's just like a line right here, especially like in her rings and her bracelets? All you do is a fat line and then on a separate layer, and you select that layer, contract it, and fill it with white. And it makes it very simple to do these sort of things. And then once you get to the inking stage like we're at right now, you can finesse it to make it look less, like you're doing that. I'm going to be doing that with the blood. So the reason I'm doing this over on top of everything is because he's got a lot of folds and stuff on his hands, but we're going to put some blood on him. And let's just change it to blue just so I can see it. See? So when I draw, I can see the blue like that, okay? Because I'm trying to draw some cool blood on here. And it's kind of like paint. I don't want to go too crazy with it. Oh, excuse me, I'm just fighting a little bit of a cold, you guys. So it's going to be the sniffles and the drinking. Double combo. And what I'm actually going to have to do here is I'm going to have to fill inside of this with white. So I need an outline shape. You guys can check out other videos I've done, or like I always tell you, I still recommend getting the DC Comics Guide to digitally drawing comics. A lot of these workflows, even if you don't like the stuff that's going on in there, really cool stuff that gets shown in there. So I'm just gonna zoom. Well, I'm zooming out so I can show you guys, but I have it on a second monitor how it's looking. I'm just gonna actually put some. See, like that looks like paint. It's not really like a blood splatter. So I want to be careful here. I want to be tasteful with the blood. I don't want to just go like gobs. There's a gob of blood on his palm of his hand. It looks kind of silly. But I know I want some on his clothing as well. So I'm trying to think if he's got like a knife in his hand and he's stabbing dudes. Maybe we're just gonna have like a lot of like splatters this way. Oops. Alright, now we got a lot of foreshortening going on here, right? So I'm just going to actually keep this one safe because I know when I go in here, I'm already seeing like all this stuff, and I'm going to be doing like some solid black kind of shading like that. So I'm just going to keep it tasteful here. Just sort of like some splatters. There's no need to get too crazy with the design of the blood on here. We'll even put some like... I always like blood on characters where you look at it and you're like, hey, how did that even get there? Like, how'd you get a splatter of blood way up there kind of thing? It's kind of funny. Now, his face, this is the tricky part because, like I showed you in the last one, I had like a big spray on his forehead. It's kind of tough putting blood on characters' faces because it can really mess it up. Because I know, like, all in here, I want this to be black, like a lot of black. And the blood, if it's like here, it's a white spot. So it breaks up that silhouette or that black shape that I'm really trying to get. So, I don't know. I can always ink over top of it, which I'm probably going to do. But let's just put some on his face just a little bit. Just so we can see how it looks. I don't know. Maybe we can have a little drip coming on his face. It's not too... It's subtle, but it's, And we're going to be coloring this too. I don't think I'll be coloring it with you guys. Maybe we'll do another real-time video with some coloring of a different project. So let me know. Actually, I can talk about this, bring you guys back into it. Let me know in the comments. So 2015's here. Are you guys excited? I know a lot of you, or actually a lot of people in general, they don't like New Year's resolutions and stuff. I think, you know, if you're going to set goals for yourself, who cares when it is? So when people start saying, I have New Year's resolutions, I don't really roll my eyes, even though, you know, most people have New Year's resolutions every day. I just like it as a way of, oh, you know, hey, you want to make goals? Awesome. I hope they work out for you and all that good stuff, you know. So do you guys have any goals? Do you guys have any, what are you looking forward to in 2015? Are you guys looking forward to starting your own projects? Are you getting like making a big push for something? What are you guys up to? Let me know in the comments. You guys making web comics? You guys trying to push your stuff somewhere? I just realized I made a bobo. I'm doing this outline thing, and I don't need to do that. I'll show you why. See a lot of blood on his hand here. Let me just actually, while I'm here, now that I know I've screwed up. See, I've already screwed up already. And we just got started. I don't want to add line weight to this stuff, so let me just get rid of that. Just so I don't forget, let me just get to it now. So what I'm looking forward to starting is hopefully a personal project. I had a lot that was going to happen towards, I don't know, mid to late 2014, and nothing, and too much of it I never got a chance to do it because of client work and things. So I'm going to try to see what I can do to lighten my load up a little bit if I can. If I have to take client work, that's one thing, but see if there's something I can work on to get something going. I've been having a lot of, for those of you that know my characters and stuff, Jessup King stories, and I really want to get back to him. I was just flipping through my hard drive, and I had a lot of pictures of him on there, and I'm just like looking at it, and like I miss drawing this guy all the time with that giant mustache and his simple Mario kind of look to him. Let's try to see if we can put like a spray or something. Alright, so he's got a giant knife. Probably be appropriate to put some blood on there. I actually didn't put any on there to start with because, you know, I don't know if I want to go with like the just dripping with blood. That's kind of hard. We'll put the blood on the tip of it here, so we'll just kind of come up this way, and then we'll. Trying to think of it because when I get to colors, I need to be a little bit more conscious of where the colors are going. Yeah, we can go like that. Let me just zoom out so you guys can kind of see where we're going with all this blood. I was gonna put blood and stuff on their hands, but I don't know if you really need all that there. I'm kind of concerned that they do look a little bit like zombie hands, like they're all coming to get him, even though it's all just people that he's killed. So if they've been killed, maybe I should be putting blood on them. I don't know. I'm gonna leave them blank for now. We can kind of see how it goes. I can attack that in color. I'm hoping to give a very muted, pale color to the flesh on these guys. So it looks like they've been dead for, for a while now. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is we're just going to change that back to black. There you go, so everything's good and dandy. Now, what I was saying was I'm going to make a new layer underneath, and just to make it simpler on myself instead of having to worry about showing you guys how to do all those fancy tricks with making the outline of that. I'm just going to make a layer underneath of this, put it to white, and I'm just going to paint out the spots that are like the detail that's inside the blood. Like right here, we can get rid of it. And it doesn't affect the bloodline art because it's underneath of it, but it erases all the line art that's covered in blood. And you can do things like right here, like I'm actually going to paint over the tip of the knife. So you have to stick out there. Alright, so this side's pretty much done. Let's go take a look at his head. Pretty sure a lot of the detail was pretty blank. Yeah, let's get this going. Now why? Oh, because this is still... Gotcha. There we go. We can fix some of that up in inking. Now we'll keep doing this here. Da, 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 da. So I find when I'm doing a lot of inking, like I said earlier, I put on music and just let my subconscious sort of just relax for a while, because in my opinion, the inking part is the relaxing stuff. I just need, there's certain rules I need to be aware of and that I need to really start nailing, which is volume and form and shape. But most of that, if my artwork's been done correctly, I don't really need to linger on it. I've already done it appropriately. Let me just zoom out so you guys can see the blood on him and stuff. Right, so we got the detail on his hands and things. But yeah, so look at that hand. We got nice covered in blood. Looks a little bit better. But I would just turn music on and just, let that be the driving force. You just lose the hours and stuff. I have no idea how long this is going to take. I think it's probably been about, I don't know, it feels like a half hour so far. It's probably only been about 15 minutes. But once I come up with a decision, like in the thumbnail level of where my lighting was going to go, I'm not going too drastic and crazy. Like I said, I know I want all in here, like on his face, to be in shadow. So the light's most likely coming from the top. Probably, I don't know. I'm thinking of actually keeping it just so that there's like some... If people are put both of these covers back to back, they are different, but I want them to be the same as well. So I want to kind of have the same background that I had before, where it's just a solid black shape. It helps with the composition, and the lighting I had there was more of like a spotlight from the top left. So I'm gonna actually just stick with that, just because I think it's fun to always like bring characters back to the same spot in these things. So I'm gonna just save it up. And I've noticed too that my saving, if you guys remember, anytime I've done videos with you guys where I save, this is actually a 300 DPI image. But most of the time I save 600 DPI images. But every time I go in here and I go like this, right, and I just change the layers to gray instead of color, the saving is just like, it doesn't even take like, look at that, it's like a flash. It's how I remember Manga Studio 4 being. And I always complain about that because in Manga Studio 5, my computer's not very slow. Or it is very slow. So when I do stuff like this, it just gets pretty bogged down. Okay, so what I want to do is the blood is above the normal inking. So let me just put this back to inking like we had before. Move this down. Alright, we can get down to some proper inking now. What I'm going to do is, I'm just going to group these together in another folder. Let me just actually write blood lines. This way, I have that separated. Just easier for me. Normally I wouldn't do this, but when I'm talking with you guys and stuff, I might forget where I'm kind of at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink over top of this. And the first thing I like to do is we're going to do line weights. And line weights help a lot of this stuff because, like I said, right now I'm coming at this. Let me just change this to gray. I'm coming at this from Photoshop, or, like this 3-pixel dead brush. And I don't like that. Well, it's fine, but there's no punch to the lines and stuff. So I know where my light is supposed to be. It's the top left, right? We're doing the spotlight sort of thing. Let me just make sure I got the right brush here. There we go. I recommend if you guys are using a tablet of some sort, I would imagine so. If you're using a mouse to draw, save your wrist. Save up if you can and get a tablet. Or if you're using a Cintiq, I have one of my buttons mapped right here that just flips it from black to white, so I can really get in here and start like noodling in his eye, right? Like I'm, yeah, let's go in here, press a button. All right, let's bring in some white again and go back into the black, go back into the white, and you can build up some interesting shapes that way. Just wanted to share that with you guys because some people have interesting setups with how they keybind all their things. So I already know these are gonna be black. I already established that when I was drawing this. All right, so line weights. Boy, a lot of his face here is gonna be in shadow, like I said. So I'm actually gonna come back to this. I'm a little scared to jump in right away. So I'm gonna do the easy stuff right now. I'm just gonna start shading in the sides of the blood that the light would be bouncing to. So anything that's not like in a top left, like this side, that I'm gonna bring out the white again just so this shape doesn't get lost in all that. And you'd be surprised just by doing line weights that you could just leave it, as line weights. And if you had a really talented colorist, they could go in there and just, you'd be surprised at what just line weights would give you. So if you don't like doing shadows or you're scared of shadow work, maybe you're not practiced enough in it, stick with just doing this, line weights. And honestly, this is the easiest way I learned shadows, was trying to understand line weights. And once I started to understand how line weights work, shadows became easier because the line weights actually tell you where your shadows should be. What they don't really show you is how intense those shadows should be necessarily, right? But that comes with practice. But like what I'm saying is, you see, like these objects are popping. Like look at right here, those pop already. Those blood, they pop. So I can, as long as my shadows are sort of following that, the rest of it usually comes in. I mean, you start to see the shadows a little bit better, and then the more you draw, the more you keep doing what you're doing, the easier that stuff is to come by. So I'm just noodling this stuff here while I'm giving my brain some time to. Normally, I wouldn't be talking, but I'd be giving my brain some time to think of how I'm going to tackle the face there with line weights and that. It just eventually my brain will give me an answer, but while I'm waiting for my brain to give me an answer, I'm already coming up with solutions, or I'm actually doing work that I need to do anyway. Like the line weights have to get done, and if I'm not doing them right now, the work will get done regardless there. Let's get some more. And I just go back and forth to the zoomed out image on the other monitor, so I can just, move my head. I don't have to zoom out on this monitor. Saves me a couple seconds every time I want to zoom out. It's on my second monitor, and if you extrapolate having to look at a second, or zooming in and out on the same document over and over again over the course of drawing that, that could be, who knows, it could be 5 minutes, 5 to I don't know, 10 minutes total of an illustration like this of zooming in and out. But if you have a second monitor and you put it off to the side and you open another window and you toss it on there, that saves you 5-10 minutes of drawing. Do that for as many drawings as you're going to do over like a month, and then you start to see that it'll actually save you, a little bit of time there. That's just being efficient. I forget, there was somebody, one of the people I work with at work, I think it was my manager, my boss. He was talking about that. It was something about, like, it wasn't batching, automation, and it was stuff like that. Like if you can find something that if you're doing a repetitious task, if you can find a way to stop doing that, then that's where you start to notice big improvements in what you're doing. Meaning, okay, one sec, something's going on here. I think I reduce the size. Yeah, I keep pressing that. There we go. What was I saying there? Oh, okay. So like I just said, if you kept zooming in and out over and over again over, let's say, a year, I know it's such a small thing, just zooming in and out, but let's just say it took you over a year, I don't know, 24 hours. That's an entire day that could have been spent over the course of a year drawing something for 24 hours. But instead, you were zooming in and out. Now, I know that sounds kind of arbitrary and kind of like silly, but if you can, if you're aware of it, it's a monotonous task. Zooming in and out isn't something that is, productive. You need it to be efficient so you can see what you're doing, right? But if buying a second monitor, let's just say for example here, solved that problem of you ever having to zoom in and out, or for the most part, and it saves you all that time, and theoretically, if you're doing this stuff as like an actual job, not a hobby, time is money, right? The more time you spend on your project, the more money you make. So it's a good business decision to get that sort of thing. But if you're doing this as like a hobby, it's cool to have the toys and things. You don't really need to do something like that. Um, I just try to be aware of things that I'm doing over and over again. That's why I've talked about actions in Photoshop. That's sort of where I heard about it, honestly, was because of things like that, where it's repetitious tasks. You could spend more time just drawing cool stuff, but instead you're making layers, you're making folders, all this stuff. It's not cool, fun drawing. Um, what is it? What is it called in? Let me just bring it back up. Auto actions in Manga Studio, where it'll do a bunch of tasks for you just by pressing a button. Like that's what you want. It does make it seem a little different though, eh? Because like if I'm just inking with like a micron pen or something and it's just organic, there's no real shortcuts. I can't fill in my solid blacks just by pressing a button. But I mean, if you're going to go digital, there's a reason you're going digital. There's some people that actually go digital because they just like the look of digital work as opposed to traditional work. I find myself anyway, and a few people I talk to, we're always trying to find ways to turning digital into uh, to turn it into a more analog look so that it actually doesn't. You're trying to fool people in a way where it's like, no, that wasn't done digitally. That was actually. They don't know if it was done digitally. It's traditional, because we don't know how to properly ink and things like that. So when you start finding the little ways around it, it's kind of fun. So let's get the line art or the line weights going here. Again, I'd have music going right now, so this is pretty boring stuff. But in my opinion, like in the style that I draw, I need this sort of thing. It just gives it a little extra level of polish. And I listen to a lot of Fang Zhu. I've told you guys about him too. I highly recommend everybody listen to him. He's a concept artist, and what he talks about is always having your art at a level that could be just okay. I'm done with it now. Now, comic books, it's a little bit different than concept art because comic books, you need like thumbnails, you need, type pencils. There's a lot of levels into it, but there's always a way that you could go, okay, maybe you're going to get kicked off of a project or something too, right? And you have no idea. But maybe your client doesn't like the art you're producing, um, and they want different talent on the book. But they don't want to lose all the work you're doing, Maybe they like your layouts, your thumbnails and stuff, but they don't really like the way your art looks. I know that sounds a little odd. I've heard of people in situations, so I wouldn't scoff at it too much. But that basically means, I could just go right now. I could get an email or a phone call. They're saying, "Hey, Jonathan, we're going a different direction or something. We're gonna pay you." Most people wouldn't just pull you off like that, but they would say stuff like, "We're gonna pay you for your work. Thank you so much, but the project's been pulled, or we're going a different direction." You're like, "Okay," but they still want the work, so I could send them this. And they could take this and give it to an artist, or they could take this and bring it to a colorist, and the colorist could do all their magic on there. Because to the client that makes sense, they save time, they save money. Some things didn't work out between the two of us or something. That's cool, but the client still gets their work, and they're not, you know, I can't imagine they'd be upset because they're still getting work. Whereas, if you work in a way where it's all you, it's different. I know comics are different than concept art, but it's an interesting way of thinking. Whereas if I started this drawing with just her and I'm inking her hair and I'm rendering the hell out of all this stuff, and then I get a notification like that where they're done with the project, and all I've done is rendered her hair. The rest of the image isn't done, or maybe they say your deadline's been pushed up. I'm sorry, we can't afford to have you work anymore on what you're doing. It needs to get shipped today, kind of thing. Um, you're kind of screwed in a way because your image isn't done. So that's one of the reasons I'm going towards this. And to be fair, I mean that sort of stuff is very rare. But I have had it happen. And it's a lesson I've slowly learned. And that's why I'm kind of leaning more towards this method in 2015. We'll see how it goes. I'm always changing my methods. You guys all know that. I'm always changing stuff and seeing if we can get something to be a little bit more efficient. But that's one of the reasons why I'm going towards this clean art style here kind of thing, where it's just a flat line. Because regardless, people can get it. They understand the art, and they can go from there. So there's a lot going on here with her hair. There's a lot of details in there. I'm just going to actually be inking over top of that, so I'm not going to worry about the line weight there. There's things on her face here, like her nose. I'll just put like a shadow here. I don't really like that. Let's cut that out. I don't know how that's going to look. That's not bad. So you guys can see it. It's okay. But it's areas like this, like the strap on her bra, or her shirt, sorry. I'm just going to bring in some white there too. So this character here is actually very small, but she's very prominent. So I don't need to actually throw a lot of inking in here because line weights are going to solve a lot of this. The one thing I didn't like was, I don't know, she's got small breasts, which are fine, but putting lines like this, okay, this isn't an attack. I'm just going to, it's personal opinion, whatever. Fake breasts always have this look that I'm not a fan of myself. And it's this giant gap that's in there. And I always hate the way it looks myself. So when I draw two lines like this, that's the feeling I get. And I've seen people's art that draw like that, and it's a pet peeve of mine. Normal breast, from my opinion anyway, I don't know, the research I guess I've done, such a weird thing to say, is that they don't really do that unless she had no bra on and she was laying on her back and gravity was taking effect there, and she's got small breasts, so like even leaving it like this probably looks a lot better. If anything, maybe just a hint, but like it just feels weird because there's the spacing, because her arms are stretched out. I just don't like the way I think I'm just gonna leave it like this, or else I'm just gonna fight myself over it. But I just wanted to point that out there because I know there's what was the name of this anatomy book? It was like it was a how to draw a comic sort of book, and they were talking about drawing breasts like that, and it was like, here's how real breasts actually look, and it was fine. But then they were like, but these are superhero breasts, and you're like, what? And it was, I don't know. I've talked to people, guys, where that's well, if they're superheroes, they gotta have like super breasts. It's like, I don't know, it just looks really gross. I'm not a fan, but teach their own. Everybody's got their own little thing, right? That really spiraled off into something that. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put some line weights in her skirt. Just get these folds kind of. Just trying to feel it out. And I actually draw white over these 3 pixel lines like this. And this actually makes it give it the appearance that it isn't drawn with a flat line. You see what's happening there? It's starting to get a little bit more character to the lines there. I'm sorry about all the sniffles, you guys. I'm actually going to go in here and just add my line weights to the boots. And this is how I would traditionally pencil too. I would, first pass is always line weights. It's something I was taught. I never really got rid of this method here, where first pass is usually always line weights. Digital makes it very easy to just go in and start doing shadows instead. Uh, but this method here, it's sort of like you're working in stages, and it does add time to your work. But I enjoy it because it adds, theoretically, you're working in stages, and whenever you work in stages, usually I find I yield a better result in my art. So that means, because I'm taking the time to figure out the line weights, I don't have to go in here and throw a bunch of shadows. If I do throw a bunch of shadows, that's the way the light's falling on the form. You need it, you got to put it in, do it. But like I said before, by just throwing line weights on, it makes it look almost done anyway, and you can walk away. So let's just here. So I've just done this character. Let's just zoom in a little bit, just so you guys can see her. I'm gonna bring over the lines here. So I'm gonna turn on the line weights on and off. So it's very subtle on this character, but you can see the boots. They look better. The piercings on her wings and things, they tend to look better. Let's look at, like, for example, let's do this hand because it's got a lot of detail in there. So to me, this hand, it might look really busy. I can see the chunks of blood on there. Hopefully you can too. But just by turning the line weights on and off, you can see how much it pops. Right? So let's zoom out just a little bit more so you can see it. So there's nothing, and then bang. So you can see, you just start doing line weights everywhere, and the image just pops. And you could, like I say, you can just leave this and just do some mild rendering, send it to a colorist. They'll knock. It depends on the colorist you go with. I've heard a lot of colorists say things like, if I got this liner, they'd be in heaven. It's like a coloring book, All the lines are there, and they get absolute freedom to figure out. I've already shown them where the light source should be. Maybe I'd leave a note saying, please put the light top left. But if they have all this room to actually play with pulling out hues and saturations and tones of, like, okay, well, now, since I didn't shade the whole side of his face like this black, if this guy's face, if his mask color is white, maybe they want it like a grayish blue, and then the shadow, they can start going into like a really rich purple or something, like a desaturated purple that's just heavily dark, and you can blend it, like, it's amazing how that stuff can kind of go. Actually, I just want to show you an example here. And this has always actually stuck with me. Hopefully I can find it. It was, oh man, what was the name of the artist? Scotty Young. Oh, my cold's really, I'm starting to get the big time sniffles here. So, Scotty Young, Spider-Man, Venom cover. And it's one of the coolest looking covers in my opinion. This one, oh man. Okay, so let me just bring this over here so you guys can see it. Look how sweet that is. Look at that. And you go in there, look at, it's got, I know this person most likely, I could be wrong, but they use like a texture overlay. I know a lot of people do this with the Spider-Man. It's like kind of like from the movie where he's got like this, I don't know, it's like this hexagonal pattern. But that is amazing. That is a beautiful piece of art in my opinion. It's one of my favorite drawings that I've ever seen of Spider-Man and Venom. Now the thing is, let's see if I can find this. I'm going to leave this on the screen, just so you guys get something to look at while I try to find this. Scotty Young, and I found this all by accident. Scotty Young, Spider-Man, Venom, inks, cover inks. Maybe that'll work. Hopefully I can find this just to show you guys, put them back to back. And this isn't to say one is drawn, like he phoned it in or anything like that. From Venom 2000. Oh, it's pencils. Okay, so maybe let's just try Venom cover pencils. Damn. I don't want to spend the whole thing just trying to find this for you guys, but cover inks. When was this? 2003, 2004. I really wish I could find it just to put it next to you guys so you could see it. Anyway, like I said, I had found this. It was on the internet forums a long time ago. And the reason I found it, somebody was actually calling him out, saying he phoned it in and all this stuff. But if you actually zoom in here and look, try to imagine that the only lines in here are the ones you see, right? Like on his mask and on here. But there is no rendering or anything on Venom's tongue. You can kind of see in here the lines that he had. I believe the spit was all added by the colors as well. But if you see right here, like in the folds, this is all the line art was. There was no black. There was no shadows in here. It was just all flat line arts. Now, the reason I bring this up is people were calling him out, calling blah, 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 blah. F it. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to get at is if you have a cool colorist, maybe you guys jive together that well and you can make sweet effing art that looks that cool. You don't necessarily have to have everything that's rich black. Personally, I like having thick blacks. It lets me know where my lighting and stuff is. I like the art that I can pull rendering from and stuff. But it's still really cool to have things jumping around like that. And if you're coloring your own work, I mean, you might have to experiment a little bit to see how your stuff looks. For me, I've worked with quite a bit of colorists, and from mixed results of how my stuff turns out, you know, look at this. I love these pants. It's just like a cheesy, something like a 6-year-old would draw for like a butt. And I know there's going to be some shadow work in here, so I'm just trying to put some line weight in here. I can worry about the actual detail and make it look less flat. So what I'm going to do actually here for this, instead of just drawing all this, I know this jacket is in front of the pants. So I'm just drawing a shape here. We're going to fill that black. I don't need to really do the line weights for that. But there are some line weights that I need to do around all this blood here. So let's do that. Remember the blood's coming, or the light's coming from the top left. And this sort of thing right here is going to make, you're going to see it's going to be sweet. So I'm not really inking too much at the top of this here, just so I can let the lighting kind of take care of all that stuff. And to get like these just big blobby shapes in there, as I'm making these lines, I'm just sort of feeling it out, but I'm just pressing down, lighting up, pressing down, lighting up, pressing down, lighting up. It just gives it like this, like the shapes are a little bit more organic, they have a little bit more shape to them. So now I'm moving to lighting all underneath here, and the opposite side up there, even though below it was the opposite lighting. Now it gives it the look like the light's moving over this stuff. So, since I know I'm coloring it, I just wanted to point this out. And even if you're giving to a colorist, you'll notice if you look in here, like this is some pretty, tacky kind of inking on that. But once the color gets on there, a lot of that stuff, guys, it's gone. Don't even worry about it. And then we even do something like this, right? Once we actually bring this to monochrome, let me just, is it a bloodline there? No, it's here. Background, actually. So when we change this to monochrome, you're going to see how that's like, even though it looked kind of real, or it looked pretty gross before, it's kind of gone once you start getting into the monochrome stuff here. And a little note about monochrome. Most colorists that I've worked with, when I give them an image that's monochrome, they love it because they color in Photoshop or they color digitally. I know very few. I've never worked with a traditional colorist who colored it with any other medium other than digital. But when you give them a file that's just black and white, when they make selections, it's much easier on them because unless there's a hole in your art, when they select it, it's going to select everything inside there without having to. It doesn't select the gray, and they have to like expand selections and then erase it and stuff. One of my favorite colors that I've been able to work with, I've hired her on my own work as well. Heather Breckel. She has a video. I believe it's on Ustream. Check it out if you're interested in coloring. Check out Heather Breckel. I believe she's still doing work on My Little Pony and Ninja Turtles. I believe the animated comic book. Excellent colorist. I love the way she colors my stuff. Hopefully, I get to work with her more in the new year. But she has a video where she was drawing one of my Donatellos, and I'm pretty sure the art that I had given her, it was definitely from Manga Studio, but it was monochrome as well. So when she was making selections, it would just grab all that stuff that was there. She didn't have to go in there and make manual selections too much, and it just reinforced my my resolve to like make everybody else's job easier as well. Because like you guys have heard me talk before, and if you haven't, I'm just gonna say it now as well. That when you're doing comics, unless you're doing literally every single part of it on your own, it's a team project. Even if you're the penciler or like the main artist, if you're just doing digital inks, or if you're inking yourself and you're penciling yourself, and you're the main artist, if you want to, it's not your book. As much as I buy comics based on the artist, I know that sounds really bad. Unless it's Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles is actually a very, very good comic book. It's well written, it's well drawn, well colored, everything. But unless you're buying it because you love the artist, there's so many hands that touch a comic book that the entire process is it's a team, right? It's a team doing that stuff. So if by me sending them, yeah, the art might not look as awesome as I would like it because of the gray. I can pull a little bit of range and stuff. But when I monochrome it and send it to the colorist, it makes their life easier, which means they spend more time making the art look better. Great, you know. I'd rather that than start giving art to people and it just they have to do work to get it to work, if you know what I'm saying. And that's, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to. If I had to, just say I was just an inker and I got pencils from a penciler and it was just like sloppy, man, like sloppy as all hell. Unless that was the thing that I like to do was just tighten up sloppy, sloppy pencil work. It just seems like it's so counterintuitive, man. Like I don't know. I think you guys know what I'm trying to get at with that. You just realize that when you're doing comics, it's a team effort. Everybody should be pulling their weight in what they're doing. Just because you're a penciler or a colorist or a writer or something doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do like marketing and things, you know. But if you're a paid talent to do something, in my opinion, it's your responsibility and your job to do that talent, whatever the hell it is that you're being hired to do, to the best of your ability so that everybody benefits from it, you know? Okay, so I don't know what the hell happened here. I was getting real sloppy with this stuff here. All this blood, the smears, whoops. Was it P? Oops. There we go. Let's have to redraw this. Oh boy. This is why I love listening to music when I'm working, because like this kind of stuff, like I really want to move into. Now I'm ready to go in here and just start rendering this stuff, but I gotta be patient because if I start slacking on this line weight stuff, it's noticeable and it just looks like you gave up. That's not. It's not good. And this sort of stuff too, I find it to be pretty pressure driven stuff. Like Tyler asked me to do the cover for this because I did the cover for the first one, which I'm thankful for. I'm very grateful for. And actually, I didn't even say it in the beginning. I apologize for that. Check the description below. I'm going to have a description where you can check out Oxymoron and all the cool stuff at ComixTribe too. The standards on there that I've worked with. Will Robson helped work on that as well. What do we got? The Red 10, a phenomenal book. Check that out. That's where the main villain here, Oxymoron, comes from. What other books are on there? And then Emily Was Gone, another book written by John Lees. What is the name of the superhero book? I'll let my brain try to think about it. Scam is on there as well. Joe Mulvey's book, Scam. Go check them out, guys. There's a lot of quality books there. And yeah, so go check that stuff out. But what I was trying to say was why this stuff is kind of pressure. You know, like even though it's small press, indie, whatever you want to call this sort of stuff. It's not like I'm drawing a cover of X-Men or something right now. But this is for an anthology, okay? And for those of you that don't know what an anthology is it's a group of people that are all doing something for this book. So I'm pretty sure it might be somewhere around like 10 plus individual stories. So that means you've got at least, let's just figure there's 10 writers there, at least 10 artists, you know, and those artists might have inkers as well, plus colorists on there, right? Like you're looking up to, if it's just 10 stories, it could theoretically be up to like 40 different people on this book. And, you know, it's up to me, or I've been asked, you know, he wouldn't have asked me if he didn't like the stuff I did, but it's up to me to make this look as interesting or cool as I can make it, so that people pick it up. Like that's part of my friendship. That's fucked up. Like that's a lot of, you know, nobody really opens up comic books unless there's a reason to do so, right? Like if you've known about it, or if you're like, oh wow, look at that art, or oh hey, so and so's doing it. I love so and so's work. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of stuff that goes into that, but like I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love the pressure and stuff, and it pushes me to try to have a really cool cover and do the best that I can do. But it's very, I don't know. Sometimes it gets a little jarring because if something's not right, like I already know once this is done, a few months from now I'm gonna look at it and be like, oh, why did I do it like that? You know, the more you draw, the more you get better. The better you get, the more you get better. The better you get. And you can start to see the errors that at one point were really accomplishments for you, you know? And the more better you get, let's just keep it going back and forth. The better you get, the more easily you can see errors and hopefully not repeat it the next time you go through, you know? So this blood's actually looking pretty cool, guys. Wait till I zoom out. You guys will be able to see it. Actually looks real slick, even though like right now it's, you know, whatever. And I'm not like there's not really any rendering I'm going to be doing because this is just blood. So the reason, I guess I'll tell you right now, why I made 2 separate layers for the inks, because all this blood inking layer here is above the inks that I'm going to do on the characters. The reason for that is I can start going in and like you see all of this action in here, all these folds, there's going to be a lot of cuts and shadows and stuff. But because it's under the inking layer, as I ink it, the blood will always stay above it, so the detail will never get lost, and I'll never have to worry about inking over the blood. And that's just to save some time. If I can do that now instead of later, it's always good. Let's get this going. I'm fighting right now. I'm trying to really just start pushing through this so I can get in there and actually start doing some cool inks. I really want to get into the rendering, to be honest with you. It's one of my favorite parts of doing this. I've talked about trying to simplify my stuff so I don't have to do as much rendering, but I just keep coming back to it's so fun to do. I love the look of it that, I don't know. I want a simple style, but at the same time I want to render. I want my cake and eat it too. Basically, is what I'm saying. All right, where was right here? Let's get this. There we got a thick line there. All right, so zoom out so you guys can see the inking on there. Like that looks pretty cool. Like to me, it looks really slick. Like that's what I'm saying. So if you look at this, like I could send that again to a colorist and not you know be too concerned. Like I know that they'll knock it out of the park. Oh, the blood's looking good. It just give you a little back and forth here. Let me zoom out. So I'm going to turn that layer on and off so you can see before and after. So that's it before. It's fine. But once you just add line weight, like watch, it's going to look like it's textured, like it's thick, like it's on something. See that? That's what I'm talking about. That's the stuff you want to be trying to do. In my opinion, if you're doing line weights anyway, that's the point of line weights to do that. If you're going to add line weights to your work, that's the idea of what you're trying to accomplish is to give it some weight, make it pop over things that are in front of it and things. Okay, so we got that. Just gonna go down here. So I'm gonna work on these guys. I think this is the last bit of line weights on these. Like I really just want to get into some inking. Gosh, facing me so fun. Oh, okay, whatever. Let's just let's get to this here. Save it up. Okay. So we're just going to always got to remember your light source that you're deciding on, right? So it's not top left really, it's more like front left. So all this stuff is pretty gross in shadow. Where'd the light hit here? Hit the top of it. I'm not, again, worrying about where the shadows are falling on this. I'm just concentrating on the line weights. Okay, this line doesn't make any sense. So I'm just going to draw over it in white. And we get these kind of lines here. So this contour line that I've added over the normal lines, that's just to help the inking process. It helps sell the image just on its own, and to make objects pop over one another. And then when we get to the inking like this, then I can go in there and, as you can see, like you see how this line is just dead, but just by adding the thick line weight, I can connect it to the contour line, and it makes it part of the image. So it doesn't stand out so much as like, oh, that that clearly looks a little weird. So like this hand, for example, you see how it's just outlined, right? Like all of this is in there. Like, okay, let's look at this hand. I'll just give you an example. So there's the hand with the contour lines on there. I'm just going to turn it off so you can see it. So that's it before, and then all the lines to the left are basically just added black to it. So you can see like it changes it radically. It makes it look a little bit more drawn at the same time, I suppose, if that's a good way of wording it. I don't know. Just giving those lines a little bit of character. Oh man. Here, I'm just going to rotate the canvas. Make it easier on myself. Trying to use this more. Hopefully we'll see it more when we're inking, is the rotation in Manga Studio. The Photoshop version I have is an old version. It doesn't have the rotate function. So really hurts my wrist to go in there and try to do some curves, and I figured out ways to work around it. It's not, you know, the end of the world, but with the way the lines come out, it's easier in Manga Studio to get this sort of thing. And you know, I've purchased legit copy of Manga Studio, so I don't feel so bad. I don't really necessarily like downloading software. Like Photoshop's so expensive too, guys. Just building up shape here, trying to get some volume going for when we get to the inks. Another thing too I should note is you don't have to draw over every line. Meaning every one of these lines I have to go in here and add this line weight. You don't have to do that. It's mostly you're trying to look for the big shapes like this right here where the wrist is way in the foreground and like there's like this the hands going into the distance, right? So I need to really sell like all these lines are pretty thick, I guess, because it's all overlapping itself. You see, like adding that line there, it just makes that fold look like it's going in the distance there. All on the side of the knuckle. Let's get some white in there. So I'm just going to white that out. I'm just going to make some shape to these lines here. So like this thumb's really back there. Yeah, we're going to get rid of that. It looks like crap. And a lot of these lines here, when we're doing like the 3-pixel method here, it's my understanding that basically there's guidelines for your inking. So feel free to just go over and erase a lot of the lines. Like if it's just making it look too busy, or if it just looks gross, or something like that, right? You can just get rid of it. You don't need to keep it there. All right, so let's get all. I'm pretty sure that's gonna be black in there. So let's do this side. Oops. All right. So all underneath the bottom of the knuckle here. Those lines don't need nothing. Alright, so let's make this finger here pop over the other fingers. So we're just gonna. The rendering will fix a lot of that. So let's just zoom out here so you can see where the hands are going. So there we go, we got the hands. I'll again turn the lines on and off so you can see the line weights and all that. So that's without, that's with. It's very subtle. It's not a massive jump, but it definitely looks better. It didn't really take too much time, to be honest with you. So I think now we're ready to do some fun stuff. Let's ink this biatch. Okay, so we got all that. Let's make a new layer, and let's have some fun. So, like I said, I know I want to do his face. That's gonna be pretty fun to do. But I'm thinking I want to. This is the gambling part. I'm not sure because I know there's going to be a lot of heavy blacks in here. I kind of want to have her casting a shadow on his back, possibly. And it's really complex because he's got a lot of folding fabric and a lot of like his arms going in the distance. So we got some wrapping action that's got to happen. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to try it out. We'll see how it looks. Might look a little, I don't know, garbos, but let's try it. And this is actually really, if this works, it's going to set the pacing and the tone for the rest of the lighting on the image, because everything else has to follow that. And it's like the major cast shadow on the image, right? Because if I can get away with doing that, I can have his hand that's back here with this knife casting like a on his butt or something, the knife there, and it really, that with the line weights really makes stuff, give it dimension and pop and distance. Like, it's not flat anymore, right? Oh, excuse me. You always hear people saying, like, it's our job as storytellers in comics to make the unbelievable believable. And when you start with a white piece of paper, it's your job to turn that into something that's interesting and something that has something that looks like it could be real. Maybe that's what you're trying to do, or something impactful. So if I can give the illusion of depth in here, then we're really talking. So I'm going to start with, oh boy, all right. So her wings are the massive ones, but she's got a body shape here. So let's try to start with the body here. And a lot of this is going to get filled in with black, so I can just fold in the fabric there. So she's got a knee up, right? This is a weird part. You're trying to figure out and feel a lot of what's going on with the anatomy. So we're going to do this sort of thing. It's like a zigzag pattern to follow the folds. It makes it look a little interesting. And we'll bring the other foot here. Little shapes of the buckles. Alright, so I need to follow the same shape as the shadow on the folds. But she's also got this other thigh that's kind of coming up. Alright, so we're going to try this. Kind of iffy on it. But it's digital, right? So we can always, excuse me, can always delete it. So his torso is wrapping back, so this arm needs to wrap back as well. I don't even know if you'd see that. No, you wouldn't see that arm. You wouldn't see any of those arms because the wings are covering them. So let's do a wing here. We're going to get one. We're going to have it kind of coming like this, I guess. That look right? Yeah, okay. So I just need to follow some things. So I'm actually going to cut some shapes out like this. Just like that's right here. Kind of. There's no piercings there. So let's just erase all that there. And let's get the other side here. So we're going to have that wing going there. And let's get some cuts in the wings. It's pretty banged up. Let's bang up this side too. And we've also got, I'm just going to draw them in like this. The piercings on the wings. Little goth fairies. Alright, so we're gonna have that. I don't know. I'm seeing it in my head. It's coming together. Once you actually throw the black on there, though, that's when you can really go, oh God, or hey, it worked. Thank God. So we're gonna have this other wing here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have it here, and so the arms in front of us here. I'm actually gonna wrap it way up like that. I don't want to lose the shapes that we kind of have going on here in the background, because it'll still look interesting. Just put the X there so I can remember that. Uh, hmm. Put that detail in there for the rings. So that's that covered, and we got these big wings up here. Where's my X's going? Okay. So I'm just gonna we're gonna do this. I like to call it Jim Lee rendering. I have no idea where it came from. Whoops. And what it is this right here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually just fade this wing out. So even though it's all black, it just fades out. It doesn't. It's not like a sharp shape. Even though it might. No, I'm not going to block that out because the light's still coming and hitting this. You know. I'm trying to like tell you guys, so it's like no, believe me, trust me. That's how it should look. So let's just beat up that wing a little bit, and we're going to put 2 rings. Alright, so let's zoom out here just so we can see what the rest of this is. We got that. So she's folding that way. Gotta get that other wing in there. I don't want to lose the shape of her like hips because there's a lot going on here. There's some foreshadowing going on in there. Foreshortening. I don't want to, so we're gonna just go like this, I guess. So I don't want to lose the hips. So we go up there, this wing. I'm gonna do the Jim Lee stuff again. It's got to wrap around. So we got a piercing there. That's fine. And so we got the one wing, and this wing I'm just going to just bring across. Nope, can't go there. That makes it too thick. Okay, so that's what it looks like. It's a hot mess. What we're going to do is we're going to grab our. Usually I use a magic wand tool. Yeah, let's do the magic wand tool because I'm going to have to expand some of this stuff from all layers, I guess. Alright, so let's see if our selections are good. So that. Oops. Nope. I don't know what the hell I did there. Select that, select that, select that. Gets hard to see some of this stuff after a while. So it's getting a little out of control. Okay, so we got that. Where's the other one? Is it this one? Yeah, it's there. And the inside's here. And here. I think that's it. So what I'm going to do is just to be safe is expand that selection. Where is it? It's this one. Yeah, sure, we'll try that. And we're going to fill it black and see what we get. So, I don't know. So before I just say no, see you later, what I'm going to do is just clean it up. There's a lot of detail in this cast shadow, so that might be the reason why I'm not getting good vibes from it. What else we got here? Okay. Let's zoom out. Let's take another look at it. An objective look. So we zoom out. It's hard to say yes or no right now because there's nothing else that's inked, right? So here's the decision. If I stick with that and I go through with it, everything else has to abide by that. Now, I try to ask myself some things. Does that effect add anything or does it take away from it? It's pretty busy. It's pretty complicated. She herself is pretty complicated with all the piercings and things. Once we get in there, if I'm adding that much cast shadow to her, a lot of her rendering and shadowing's got to be pretty tame, which I'm okay with, which leaves a lot of him to be in shadow, which, I think what we're going to do is I'm going to take a look here real quick at the original inks of the original image. And okay, so I got that. Let me just change that. That should be gray. And make another layer gray. I'm gonna put this down here and go BG inks. And I just had a classic. Where's my line tool? Straight line. So what I'm doing here is I just want to frame this, get that background inking in there. No, that's not right. That's too high. Alright, so we got that, and then we're gonna go here, and we're just gonna fill that. So that's what I had before. I don't know if I actually. No, I don't like that. Let's give some more personality to that background. So push the eye over here, and then we're just going to kind of let it relax a little bit over there. That's a little better. So I'm just putting this in here so I can see it. I'm trying to build up the shapes here, okay? Especially in something that... This is a pinup, right? I need a lot of... I don't want a lot of guesswork, so I'm doing a lot of legwork right now, is what I like to call it. If there's like giant black shapes that I can toss in like that... I'll do it just so I can see these things. Just gonna fill these guys black. Was there something else that I put an X on? I guess not. So let's just zoom out, take a look, see how it feels to us. Like I say, in the original one, I had a lot of cast shadow. Like even once we get OXYMORON there, casting a shadow onto the background, we might make this work. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead. Well, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. Not yet. What we'll do is. I'm going to actually do one other thing. Oxy cast. So I'm just looking at the original art on the other piece. And I'm going to do that here. So what we're going to do is we're going to make Oxy casting a shadow here. Now, in the original one, it was pretty distant. The point of this cast shadow I'm going to have is it's to push his head away from that hand because it looks like it's kind of flat. So if I put like a cast shadow of his head like right here, like he's still pretty close to that wall, right? So I need to just be conscious of that. So let's get his finger here. Let's fill that with black. That's black, black. His pinky here. Oops, that's all blood. I don't want cast shadows in the blood. Or no, oh yeah, it's on the inside there. Okay, so that's fine. And I'm just trying to find the shapes here to make this interesting. Right, so we're gonna have that, and we could probably just start bringing in the arm right here. So let's fill that all black. Okay. Let me just take a look on the other monitor. Alright, so let's start bringing Oxy's clothing out, so his jacket pops over his legs. Okay, so we're gonna have all that. All that would be black too. Okay, so we got that. Now I can kind of insinuate where his face would be here, right? So, I'm actually gonna do this cheat. It's a fun little cheat. So I'm just going to kind of draw his head. And we're going to grab our lasso tool. And we're just going to move that. Alright, so now I can kind of see where do I want to place this. Because there's some defining features on the face and the nose, right? But I know, like I said, you guys have heard me already saying it, I want a lot of black in there. And what this is doing by adding that cast shadow, it's not giving me much room to add a lot of really slick shadow work in there. Because then his face just get totally lost in the background. And the teeth, they're obviously going to be pretty white. So if I move this down here, no, there's no real good way to do this. How's that? Trying to look at negative space here too. Yeah, we'll go with that. I'm gonna go with this. And then all we do is just erase all this crap. So what I did there is it's just an easy way to get a proper cast shadow. And stuff like that. Plus, if I have the black here, it's going to make this hand pop a little bit more, hopefully. So let's go ahead and just start adding the blacks. I think I can just use the paint bucket tool and it'll be fine. Yeah, it looks fine. Okay. So, we're not saying this is what we're going to do just yet, but this is what we're going to do right now. We're just taking a look at if he had a cast shadow, how would all of this look? Would it look okay? Would it look like Garbos? And how does it work with... I think her name is Nananki. Nananki? Something like that. So let's just zoom out and take a look. So you can see like it's I don't know, I kinda dig it now. I don't mind it as much. It doesn't look as weird now that there's like that cast shadow kind of going on everything, right? So let's just flip the image here real quick. Manga Studio is awesome. You can just press a button and it does it like instantly. So when I flip it, like it still works. I don't see anything that's like a glaring issue. So I'm gonna go ahead and say this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go with it. And yeah, we're gonna like that. The only other big glaring thing that I'm gonna do here is the knife here, right? So this arm is kind of coming over top of everything. So I'm going to start it up here. We're gonna do that fade that her wings did, right? So we're gonna go here, and then I'm just gonna start doing some knuckle shapes. And then right here we'll do the hilt of the knife. Then we'll go down into the knife, and then we're gonna do the shapes again. Actually, this leg I want to kind of curve in here because I'm gonna fade this leg into the background, so his leg's going away from us. So all that'll be black. Let's go ahead and just fade this line out. Just a little bit anyway. A lot of finesse going on with what I'm doing. Just throwing lines in. Alright, so like that. How's that look like that? Nah, we're just going to go straighten it out. Okay, so let's just fill this in with the paint bucket tool. It should be fine. There you go. So when you zoom out, anyway, so we can see it. Once those legs get pushed, actually, we're gonna do that now. It's just, I can't not see this, guys. Sorry. So we're gonna give his butt a little bit of a A little bit of shape there. And just going to bring it in, wrap down. This is going to be black. We're going to do a little render action here. Black all that out. Okay. I'm just trying to push this leg back. How's this leg going? This leg's, so that's going away. That's kind of coming towards us. So again, I'm trying to find the big black shapes here that I'm able to push around, because once I get into the rendering and stuff, if I don't know where my heavy blacks are, I don't know how far I can push something. And this is something that I've learned the effing hard way, guys, is that I would do the line weight stage, and then I would kind of combine the rendering and the blacks, the heavy blacks, in the same time, and everything starts to become muddy, and there's no clarity because I haven't left room for that. I haven't, even though I may have started out with having an idea of where I want the lighting to be, I would lose it because I'd be mixing stages. So right now, what I'm trying to concern myself with is, what is the solid black shapes, the prominent solid black shapes in the image, not like the detail like we're going to do all in here with the folds and stuff, but this sort of thing here. This is the stuff that doesn't sell, but it solidifies the object so that nothing else even matters. Like I wouldn't theoretically, like kind of like think of like Hellboy. If I can do this so that the form still fits in what it's doing, I don't need to worry about all the finesse, all the little things. And this sort of takes a little bit of work, some time, because you got to start pushing and pulling shapes, and it just starts turning into a little bit of a project, but it's very important. Like I said, I've spent a lot of time doing this sort of thing, and if I don't do this, a lot of it's not clear. And if it's not clear, then I'm not doing my job as a storyteller. If I'm making my viewers or my whoever's watching guess at what the hell's going on, then what am I doing then? What am I doing? If people don't really know exactly what they're looking at, that's not something to be proud of. Unless that's what you're going for. If you're going for something that's confusing, hey, knock yourself out. So I'm going to see if I can make this more black just to push that. I'm kind of wondering, maybe we can just, not that. Maybe we can just push this whole leg into the background. Just flip it here. So I'll zoom out so you guys can see what I'm looking at. I don't want him to look like he just lost a leg though, right? So let's just undo, get some of that leg back. Yeah, that's good. That's fine. Let's clean up some of that inking. Okay, well, I think we're good. I think it's starting to come together here. I'm just gonna make another layer and even more layers. Gray. All right. And what I'm gonna do is she's not getting much work done to her. I don't want her. She's too small of a character to start throwing in lots of detail. Let's just get this done. This is gonna make me feel good doing this. I've been waiting to do this guy's face. Let's just start making a. This is the guy. This is the main character, right? Let's make him. Let's at least make his face look good. If I can make this look fun, then we're laughing. So he's got this interesting domino sort of mask here. So just fill that in black. I'm actually going to worry about all these details later. We're going to kind of draw them back in with white. I just want to make sure that I'm not missing the shape a little bit. Normally this is all black. It'll actually look kind of cool. Joe Mulvey, he actually does this thing. I think it's like this. It's kind of like a Spider-Man mask where you kind of go like that and then you do your rendering in there. It's a very cool look. It gives it the shine. I think I'm just gonna stick with the black though. Give it like a. Hopefully, it's a little bit more visually striking. Visually striking. I'm gonna bring in that eye a little bit more. Let's just zoom out just so you can see the eye. Yeah, I like it black like that. I'm kind of wondering, like, there's this white gap here, all on this. Maybe I'll just, yeah, we're gonna just fill all that black. There's no reason to have just that highlight like that. See, that looks better when it's just solid black. We can worry about like all the details to clean this up, kind of thing. We can. Now I'm gonna just go in here. I'm just gonna start getting in there, getting the. You can start doing the rendering too with the white. I don't know if it'll look good, but try it. Just to start folding some of those shapes in, you know. Now I don't want to go that high with it. Just simple. I know I gotta go in there and color it, so let's flip it and see how it looks. Right, I'm gonna ink like this for a little bit here, just to spice my brain up to make it get an even bigger headache here. Make it now instead of going like, oh, okay, so the lighting's top left, John. No, it's top right now. Actually, no, I'm not gonna do. I was just thinking because there's a lot of folds and stuff going on. All right, let's give myself some more room to work. All right, so now I know that the cast shadow's down here. If I start blocking in here, watch. This is what I was talking about where I get concerned. So let's just say I'm blocking all that in. It's fine, but like his face gets lost now. It's not as cool as like you can see his face, right? So instead of a lot of shading, I'm gonna do, or sorry, a lot of shadow. I'm gonna do just rendering in there. But up here, I think I can actually get away with doing some shadow. So I'm gonna do that. So we're gonna say his brow. I want a lot of the lines kind of curving back into. Go back in there like that. This is always a tricky part because I don't like blood being black. It looks kind of weird to me anyway. So let's just kind of get those folds back in there. Oops. No, that's right. I'm just going to render this out here. There we go. We're just trying to get like just round out that form a bit. Actually, I should probably just keep the. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna keep the opacity a little low because I know we're gonna be finessing in here and stuff. I want to be able to make sure I can still see through this stuff. All right, so let's. I'm trying to build stuff up here. So we got a giant. A lot of this stuff is going into his. Whatever the hell this area is called in your cheeks and stuff. So breaking that out. So when I do a lot of inking, I like to do sharp shapes or triangles, like a lot of. You can see right there. There's a lot of like mini triangles kind of going on in there. I don't know. I just like the way that looks, especially for a character like this. It's I don't want to say he's Joker, but when you do like small press or indie work, it's hard not to think of published characters when you're designing things. Um, for a bunch of reasons. The big reason for me is that like I grew up with these licensed characters, like most of us did, I would think. And when you know of these guys, there's always it's easy to just go, okay, if I'm gonna make like a big hulking big guy, uh, who's very reminiscent of the Hulk, where he's got super strength. There's levels of super strength, right? And there's characters that have different versions of super strength. There's like your Thors, there's your Hulks, there's your Juggernauts, there's your even the Thing. To me, if I ever draw, if I ever get a chance to draw the Thing versus the Hulk, they have two different styles of big boy, big muscles kind of action. Where the Hulk is more, he's quick, he's rage, he's actually, in my opinion, he's a gorilla, but he's like very fast. He's very like if you've ever seen a child have a temper tantrum, like that's the Hulk. Right? In my opinion, the Thing, he's more like he'll hold something heavy above his head to let people out. Not that the Hulk wouldn't do that, but the Hulk's the kind of guy that would have like that bloodlusting rage. Like I have to kill or destroy whatever's in front of me because I'm the strongest there is. There's no time to wait to assess situations. Whereas the Thing is a smart guy. So like there's that sort of thing. So with this kind of guy, I try to think of the Joker in terms of like the face, but the body language and what he's doing is more sort of like Deadpool to me. Like even not just necessarily the face and things, but like there's a little like humor in this guy. Whereas even though the Joker, even with the name and stuff, he's the Joker, but the Joker to me isn't necessarily. There's the Deadpool is much different than the Joker. Like to me, this character would be willing to just kill himself because he knows he can come back to life. I don't even know if this guy can do that, but I like the idea of trying to draw him thinking that he could do that. Or I'm not sure if the Joker would be willing to do that. I don't know. I'm not really. I don't know a lot of DC lore. I just know sort of like layman's versions of DC characters, based off of like the visual looks that I get off these characters. Like the Joker to me is like the prankster kind of thing. Like you always see him even in the cartoon stuff, like shooting or wherever, shooting acid out of a flower. He's got the zapper on his hand. He's jokes. But Deadpool's like I'll drive a car into your car, go flying through the windshield, slit your throat, drive the car into an oil tanker and explode and walk away and have a good time doing it. That's sort of what I think about like with this guy, where it's like just throws caution to the wind, But the face is very Joker-esque, especially with like this giant face and stuff. So let me just pull out here so we can see kind of how that's going. Let's just turn the solid blacks. So it's looking good. I mean, I don't need to go too much work in there. I know I got to do some rendering. I've got all the shapes and the pulls and the pinches kind of going on. There's something about this face. I don't know if I want to do. That's not bad. It's not bad, that line. I got lucky with that line. I don't want to lose this here. He's got this is his jawbone. So I want to make sure that I at least put some shadow there so it pops over everything. Not really doing too much rendering right now. Okay, so let's get in here and just lower the opacity a bit so I can still see what's going on. I'm just trying to scribble in some shapes here just to make it look like folds, Let's erase all that. Clean it up. Triangle shapes there. Alright, so he's got a... Do I want to put anything on his chin? Nah, I'm going to leave it like that. I'll put the shadowing on this side. Just going to render it just a little bit, even though I should wait. So I'm sort of fighting like the shadows because I want to have this shadow be like up here as well. But I know if I do that, like this line gets lost and it just breaks it up and it adds like a little bit of level of detail in there, like layering. It's kind of hard to explain. It still lets me put some like detail in there. So let's fill this black. Let's get these going. So you see how there's still like the white gap in there, that negative space, so there's room for it to layer, like to pop over itself. Do you see what I'm saying there? As opposed to if I just went like this and added the shadow here, like that, it just makes it a solid shape, which is fine. But without it, it just gives it. Actually, I can get rid of those render lines. I don't need that. It just makes it a little bit more clean, and it just gives it the, because like there's gonna be two colors here. I believe his suit and his dress shirt are two different colors. So that way there's a color difference there, right? So it makes it pop a bit. Okay, so what do we got left here? A whole bunch of drawing to do. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to add some triangle shapes, some folds kind of thing going on to his jacket. I'm gonna put some shadow in here just to make these wings look a little different too. Differentiate them from each other. Just like that. And I'm just looking on my other monitor here, and it's looking like he's got this giant ghastly collar. It doesn't look that good. How's that look? Uh, Bring some more in. That's a little better. Let's take a look what's going on here. So like you can see it's coming together, right? Like I'm just going to be doing a lot of what you're seeing there. Okay, so we got this giant arm here. Like this is going to get kind of spicy. I always like when jackets have this right here where it just makes it look like there's like it, it falls into shadow all on this side like that. Just it helps. It's so easy and it helps give it this instant perspective and detail to it. I usually always add it if I can, even if it's like daytime. I don't want to lose like there's so much black going on right now, guys. So I think what we're gonna do, I got the wing going up there. I'm going to do this, and we're gonna do the Jim Lee thing again. Really got to come up. There's a way. There's a certain. This is a certain rendering. I don't know what it's called. So I'm just gonna change it up just a little bit so it's not all like that fading kind of stuff. But this rendering right here that I keep calling the Jim Lee rendering, right here where it fades, I don't know what it's called. I know it's just rendering. It's just a style of rendering. Um, but that's where I've seen it used a lot, and I dig it. So I just call it the Jim Lee rendering. So I'm actually going to leave this white halo kind of idea here because if I fill that all black again, we're going to have the same problem that we had with the face. I don't want to lose the form that's here, but I need to add shadow or else this is all going to, there's no weight to it. There's no shape. It's just lines, and I don't want lines. I want shape in here. That's the whole point of rendering and shadows and all that stuff is to that illusion of depth, you know. Try to strive for it if you can. And I've always told you guys this, and I believe it still. Like it depends on your art style, especially if you do like a lot of anime and manga style. I've seen some beautiful rendered stuff. Don't get me wrong, but for the most part, it's pretty tame. You might have like a cast shadow from a chin onto a neck and stuff, but it's not like I don't want to say it's not like this in a highfalutin, my nose in the air. Oh, I don't, manga's not cool kind of thing. Because I love me some manga, but it's just a different style. So you got to find what works with your art, what you like to draw. Because like I say, if I just say this was a comic, like I was doing a lot of pages, and I did this for the cover, and then inside I did none of this, it's kind of like, well, what's the point? Like if I'm not going to spend my time doing all of my art like this for this project, what's the point? You know, like you may as well just find a different style. You know, do something else that's going to work for you. Um, just really quickly, I just wanted to point out that I'm noticing there's a problem here because the shadow that I have for the shoulder and underneath here on the tricep area, there's no room for this fairy's wing. Like it's gone. Like it's not casting a shadow anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to go back to that layer and I'm going to redraw it or add it to here. And we're going to do this stuff again. And let's get some piercings in there. And fill black. Okay. Now at least it looks like it's on the arm a bit. You know what I'm saying? Where are we at here? Hey Zelda. How are you, Momo? You gonna take a little nap with Daddy? Huh? Yeah? Good girl. Oh, I forgot all that ink up there. Whoops. Forgot the cast shadow from his fingers. That looks better now. Okay. So, I mean, I don't want to put too much shadow in here. I need some shadow up here because it would look weird if I didn't, like what I just told you. If you're going to have a lot of shadows and rendering and things like this, but you just put it in certain spots and then where it should be, you don't put it, it can look weird. So I'm going to do a lot of these little triangle shapes just to make it look, because it's a glove, right? So I want it to look like it's wrapping over the hand. Just to help give it some more life. Hopefully, anyway. But I don't want to do too much. So that we'll put one. Because we still get to do juicy rendering after, guys. This is going to be great. And you really get to push and pull these forms. Oh, it's good stuff. Let's clean this line up a little bit. So these little areas here that have these white gaps, don't ever, like, you don't ever have to really fill those in. Once that gets printed, that's such a small thing. Like right now I'm zoomed into 150%, so that's 100%. Like the more you zoom out, the less you see. It's more like certain areas like this or that kind of, and especially if it's going to a colorist or they're going to color over top of that, like don't worry about it. I used to always worry about like every single part of the line needed to be filled in, or it looked really odd to me. So here's where we're at so far. Let me just save it, and I'm gonna crank the opacity up here so you can kind of see it as black. So you know, a lot of the forms are still there. Nothing's really getting lost. I'm still being pretty conservative with the black. And you zoom out, it still looks good, in my opinion, or whatever. You know, it doesn't look too crazy. Zoom in here, you know, like we got a little bit of rendering going on. We're gonna go in there and add some more. Gonna juice up those teeth, not those teeth, those those teeth. And again with Ananki, that's her name. I don't want to go too nuts there. So let's lower the opacity again. And I'm gonna worry about this now. This is gonna be really fun. I'm actually gonna increase the size of my brush. More, a little less. That looks good. That way, like I said earlier, these lines that you add in the beginning, they don't have to be perfect. It's to let you know what you were thinking, so when you get to the inking, you understand. So I like those fitted shirts, especially on like your villains or your like Arnold Schwarzenegger characters, where they've got massive upper bodies, and then when it's fitted, right, like it pulls in around your waist, so it accentuates your upper body. And I really like that effect, and it adds some really cool shadow. So I want a bigger brush because I'm just gonna go in here and start noodling in shadow. But with a bigger brush, I can get some really interesting variations in the shapes. I'm just being conscious of the lines I do have there because I don't want it to just look like a hot mess. contour it all together, it definitely does help. So, yeah, it's there. Maybe we can get. He does have a twist that's going on here, so I want to have. Let's get some black here. I'm concerned here because this is all black that I'm throwing in here. I'm drawing gray, and I don't want to lose her form too much. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do here. Right, so I'm actually going to come in here. I'm going to add some more shadows this way, just to help get that twist that's happening in his jacket. So I zoom out, so just so you can see what I'm doing. I know this looks like probably chaos right now. Just trying to find motion in this. However you can get motion, do it. There's all this cleanup work, which kind of sucks. Alright, let's erase all this. I'm going to actually make her have a cast shadow under her wings a little bit. Just a little one. Since we're going with a lot of cast shadows in this image. Alright, so let's just jack up, make it black just so we can see. So what's happening here that's looking a little, right, like can get a little crazy is there's a lot of action happening right here. Like look at all those lines, it's very confusing. So what I'm going to try doing is I'm just going to fill this in black. See if that helps with some of the clarity. I'm going to fill in the holes in her shirt there. Let's see how all that looks. We'll fill it all black. So I'm kind of debating if I like it still. I just don't want to lose shape that we got going on here. So let me try something here. I'm going to actually go on to the original art. I'm going to make a new layer above it. Make it gray like we do. And get a proper ink size. And what I'm going to do is I'm just drawing over the line art. So you can see I'm getting rid of all the... Whoops. Hey Zelda. Just going to let the shadow do the folds and stuff. Because there's a lot going on and I'm concerned that it's just making it way too busy. That's a little better. Okay. Just fill in these black spots here. Save it up here. Okay. So let's get the rest of this going here. Lot of business going on in the middle. So the rest of this, it's funny how this works. I go back and forth because sometimes you just sort of get lost, and then instead of just giving up on it, you try to find creative ways to get around it. It just starts to come together. So all that's to say, I'm concerned because there's a lot of business going on in the area we're at. However, because of that, that means what I'm going to do here is very minimal rendering, and shadowing, really, on the rest of Oxymoron's costume, because that would be essentially where the highlight's hitting. I don't need to render the living shite at all this stuff. So I'm just going to actually go in here and do this weird. I see this all the time that artists do it. I don't understand it, but it looks good. It's like, okay, so this shadow I just added is an elbow shadow, even though he's wearing cloth, and it looks really. I think it looks good, but it doesn't make sense. I've never seen somebody wearing cloth where it's like you can see as if they weren't wearing any clothes at all and they were just ripped, and they have this weird shadow on their elbow. It's not weird; it's a natural shadow on their elbow. But when you're wearing clothes over top, it's like, well, that that would never be there, but can look pretty good. Just put some shadows here. And just enough so that there's some stuff going on here. So it's all black, it's all black. Put black in there, black in there. I want to have a cast shadow though of the cuff of his shirt. But not much shadow anywhere else. Let's fill this in, see how she's looking. Zoom out there so you can kind of see it. I just want enough shadow on there so it looks like there's some shapes, going on. So that does look a little weird there. So what I'm going to do is we're going to delete this, clear that. I think we can just get away with that with doing color. Maybe I can get in here and do some line weights instead of heavy shadow. Just to bunch that up. I don't even know if we need this line at all. Let's see if we can get rid of that and how it looks. Yeah, that's fine. And I'll put some rendering in here just to round things out. I just want to make sure the shadow looks fine. I think that's one thing you don't want to ever do. I'm pretty sure I said it earlier in this video, is putting yourself into a spot where you're it can get good results. I don't like it myself, but rendering while you're shadowing, I have some videos that I posted on here with you guys of me doing that, where I would shadow and render at the same time. The only problem that I'd ever have with that is like you kind of start pigeonholing yourself into a look, and it's very hard to get yourself back out of it. It's very hard to, if there's a mistake, or if maybe you start finding yourself in situations like I found myself inking this, where it's, we got too much black going on here, or there's this or that. I don't know how else to get around without redrawing it, or, you can put yourself in a whole bunch of different spots. And I usually find I get myself that when I start rushing through, and I just start getting to what my favorite part is, like rendering, and shadows are very fun too. I enjoy that big time. You get some really nice effects. It gives a really cool look when you start doing this stuff, and you just start wanting to combine it. Like right now I'm doing this. I wouldn't consider this rendering. This sort of stuff, it is rendering, but in my mind when I'm doing it, it's more of a what's the word I'm looking for? It's still manipulating the core shadow, like this sort of stuff. Even though this is cast shadow and it's rendering it out, and that's basically what rendering is. I treat it or think of it a little bit differently. Okay, so let's just take a look here. It's getting interesting. We're gonna leave that black. I'm gonna do even another layer here, gray. We're gonna tone this one down. And we're going to start coloring up this lady here. Um, just keep it simple. Now I know she's got purple highlights in her hair here. However, I need to render out some of this hair just so it's got some form and weight to it. She does have black hair, but I can do that with the color. I don't need to worry about doing that with inks. Alright, let's just punch up her mascara here. Alright, now how are we going to light this chickie? Alright, she's got a black bra. I don't want to get it lost here. So we'll just do some conservative lighting. She's sort of got like this fishnet fabric here. Alright, so we're getting this interesting white line. I'm pretty sure that's because in the line art I drew over top of it. I actually really don't mind it. How's that look if I go that way? That's okay. As bad as I thought it would look. Again, like her neck, she should have a cast shadow under there, but I'm very leery of doing that. I don't want to. I should give her some knuckles here. Put some lines in there so it's just not like white flaps of whatever the hell. I'm gonna put some shadows on the rings here. Okay, so some of these are they're dark gray, so I'm not even gonna. Yeah, I'm really not gonna shade much of her at all. She's just gonna be a color. I don't want to screw around with this too much. Now, these piercings, I need to do some effect with them. That's when I give them a look like they're punctured in. It's just a subtle effect, but it actually adds quite a bit. It makes it look like right here we got a hole, and then a cast shadow from that hole, like it's round. And I don't know if I will or not when we get to the coloring, if I'm going to add like the circular highlight around that. Most likely. I guess it just depends on how long the rest of the piece is taken, because that's like one of those details that looks really cool, but if you don't got the time for it, like you still have to color the rest of the image, right? So spending all your time doing the really cool stuff can hurt you in the long run, because then like it takes you longer to do the entire image, you know? Okay, so I was saying I wanted to have like a cast shadow onto the wings, but I'm looking at it, and I mean I kind of like the white. Maybe I can just do it with rendering instead. Uh, I don't know. It's such a touchy thing because I have cast shadow everywhere. Maybe if I just do a subtle one here. Alright, so we got this side that'll be black. Maybe she's got this side here. Just very simple cast shadow on this. See how busy this looks. That's actually not bad. Okay, cool. Alright, now let's finish in the rest of her shadow. Hey, Momo. Do I have any black anywhere else? No? Okay. So let's just punch this back into black. Just zoom out. So it's not too bad. Maybe I'll add. I'm thinking of it. I'm gonna actually email Tyler tonight if he gets back to me. Probably do like some sparkle effects, like a fairy kind of thing around it. I don't know. I haven't seen the actual I haven't seen any finished pages of people that have drawn her with what her effects look like, if she has any at all. She's a time fairy, so I'm not quite sure what we're gonna do with that. Okay, so we just kind of got the hands down here to do some shadows with. Hmm. I think what we're gonna do too, because I'm looking at the other screen, and there's a cool effect here that I think I'm not letting myself get away with, which is this. We're going to bring this spotlight down here, and the reason why I'm saying it's a cool thing because like if I look at this hand, it's a white silhouette, right? But that's actually it could potentially look really cool with if it was just black all around it because it's that negative what is it called? Negative space or negative something? Negative light. Name is escaping me right now. So let's just fill this black. See how that looks. So that would be black. That would be black. All that would be. That's black. And what this is doing is just kind of tying it together. Yeah, this. Yeah, we have to do this. I'm seeing it on the other monitor. It looks. It's just too good not to do. So yeah, this would be black. And this is supposed to be a hand here, but it's kind of making it weird. I'm just gonna fill it in. Don't need it. So I'm gonna zoom out just so you guys can see. Like that looks better, I think. It's just making everything focused, like right on what you're looking at. You don't really have a choice. Now, here's the thing. So this is something I've been looking into as well, and looking in like a lot of concept art teaches you this, or taught me this and stuff. Is I could go in here and render all the hands and stuff, but the problem is like I don't necessarily have to because if I color it right, there's no detail in it. So all the detail and what I want people looking at is right here. This is what I want people looking at. Maybe the knife as well. It's a knife, right? So you can put a little shine on it. But once I render all this, like this is the important part. All down here doesn't really matter. So there's an argument to be made here where, okay, well, like I even said earlier in the video too, if I'm going to do this rendering style, I have to do it to everything else. So I am going to put some shadow work here, but it's going to be mostly like this stuff here, like we did on his arm. Very subtle stuff. Not crazy shadows and things. So that's what we're going to do now. But first, I'm just going to, again, sort of copy, in a way, the, where did I have that? Okay. The background that we had in the original anthology, which is sort of like this background that looks like there's been gunshots or something. This is sort of like that detail work where it's like, okay, John, you can wait till the end. You don't got to do this stuff now. I'm just going to put a couple there so I remember. And it just makes it look like what he's writing on is like a wall. Okay, so we got that. Let's make yet another layer. We're going to go to gray. Save it. And most of the shadows on this, I'm actually just going to use a lasso tool. And I'm just going to cut out some simple triangle shapes here. And I'm going to try to have a lot of the shadow pointing at what I want you to look at, like what I think is important in the image, which is what we just talked about, which is Oxymoron and the girl. All right, so if you fill that in, so it's I didn't really do anything, but it gives it a little bit. It makes it look more interesting. Hopefully. Let's just fill that in there. And I'll render some lines in there so it doesn't look so gross. Alright, this one I'm actually just going to actually put a little bit more black in because it's a little bit more fabric heavy. And to be honest, a lot of this here is going to get cut off on the trim and stuff once this goes to print. but on the web you can see it. So it's good to have it. Alright, let's zoom out so you can see it. So it's just black shapes down there. Let's turn it on and off so you can see it. That's it. Hi Zelda, how you doing, Momo? Oh, she's getting frisky. Alright, so we're going to make one more layer, and this should be the last layer here, and we should be pretty much done, which is a good feeling. I'm going to call it rendering. Or actually, here, I'll do it a habit I'm trying to get myself into is to just keep working on the same layer. So we got our ink layer. We can turn it off so we can actually see where we're coming from here. And make a new folder. We're going to call this one rendering. I'm going to put that above the blood layer here. Make a new layer inside there. We're going to go to gray. Anyway, so it's always fun to see where you're coming from. So this is how it started. This is where we're at right now with the ink on top. Drastically different image if you ask me. You can get two different feels. Not sure which, if you don't like it, you can always go back and re-ink it. It's something I've actually been doing in my spare time, which, spare time in air quotes, is maybe like for 10 or 15 minutes, I'd grab like an old standard page or comic page that I'd done before, and just very quickly do a different lighting on it. Mostly with like the lasso tool, no real rendering, something quick, just so I could see, just to play around, just to see quick lighting. You don't always have to redraw something all the time when you want to test something out. You can always just take an old piece of art that you've done, Okay, so let's get some rendering going here. Again, a lot of the shadow and light work is done. I don't need to kill this. I don't want to ruin too much of it, but if I can get away with doing some of the stuff here, might like it. I like this effect that I did in the first cover. It's kind of like textured gums a little bit. I'm just going to add a little bit to the lips there. I was thinking of like beating up the teeth a bit, but I don't know. Where's the undo button? There we go. Alright, and I think what we'll do... See how that looks. So I have a lot of pulling going on into the mouth there. We're getting to that point where we'll be getting into too render heavy. So let's just tone it back. Let's move somewhere else. That's something I try to do is if I feel like I'm... Usually if you feel like you're rendering or you're shadowing or you're spending too much time somewhere, you probably are. So once I start getting that feeling, I try to think of it as that's my art brain, body, soul, whatever it is, telling you, okay, you might not be doing what's best for the image, and I use that as a red flag right away. I just move on. I go somewhere else. I can always come back, and I don't got to linger on there and potentially do something that might screw it up. I know it might sound a little like silly. So a lot of this shadow, I know I was saying I was going to throw a lot of rendering in here, but I really don't think you need it. Maybe I'll just like add some curve up in here in that shadow. Maybe it's just like this sort of stuff where I need to... These pinch points kind of coming up, get that rendering in there. The rendering in the folds. So you can get like kind of like that cool pull shape, like it looks like it's being pulled. This whole area here is still kind of up in the air. I think what we're going to do is rotate it. This is where it gets a little tricky. Yeah, see, rendering like this with these, whenever you render something big, I always have like trouble. So I'm trying to do here is just you work big, and you go back in and you start to add render in between, and this is the tough part. Because if you don't get it right, it looks really gross. If you work backwards like that, it looks wrong. Real troublesome. Like that's not looking good at all. So let's try a different kind of rendering here. Yeah, that's a little better. And then if we're lucky, we can start to curve it here. Nope, 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 nope. So the rendering I just did up there is not good because it's flattening the form. There's no curve to it. If you're rendering flatten something out, you gotta get rid of it. It defeats all the hard work you put into trying. You know when you started drawing your image, and you started with those scribbly lines, and eventually you put anatomy on it, and you struggle to figure out the form and the anatomy, and like, well, how does this bend? And then you go ahead and you add shadows onto it, and it can in rendering. And if you screw that up, it's like all that hard work is just it's gone, man, because you just screwed it up. You flattened it out. See, so I'm trying to bend that leg, just trying to make it look like it's coming at us a little bit. And the last little thing I'm going to add here, I guess, is right here. I'm just going to add like a little, what's that called? Like a tailored kind of stitching or something. Just to give it some detail because it's pretty bland. I'm going to turn this line into actually some rendering going up there. And I think, I don't know, like, I'm going to wrap it up here with you guys. I don't think I'm going to do too much here. I don't want to do too much rendering or anything with these hands and all that. But I just want to break them up a bit. I don't think there's really much else I can do to the image. Looks fine once I get in there and start throwing the coloring on there and stuff. I'm going to do the background, I'm going to do some more of these cracks, and that's about it. I don't want to beat this up too much. So I guess that's it. I mean, I have no idea how long. It's not showing me how long it's been recording for. I want to say it's been, what, like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I'm pretty satisfied with how it turned out. I am a little concerned with this area in the middle. So once I get to coloring, I may axe it. I hope I don't have to. I mean, right now it looks fine. I don't think it is a concern, but I don't know if it's a massive concern. I've been looking at this too long. What I'm actually going to do, and I recommend you guys do this too, if you've been spending a while doing anything like this, all you need to do is take, like, if you can afford it, like even a 30-minute break, or if you can even really afford it, if you're working in, it's called batching. Again, it's talked in the Freddie Williams book. It's something I've been trying to heavily do, is you work in batches, right? So I would do this, and then I would open up another file, ink that, maybe ink another page, depending on how many days, and days will go by, and then I go back to do the coloring. I can go back with a fresh eye and go, no, this doesn't look good. Because the more time you spend with an image, you start to noodle. And then when you start noodling, you start to see things. And when you start seeing things, you start trying to fix crap, or you're what's really good and what you should have left alone ends up turning to crap. Like, it turns into a monster. And I find for myself anyway, just like how I was working on the face and I thought I was rendering, I moved over to the hand. Always be aware. Let your body tell you if, like, if it starts to get the I don't know, move on. Do something, like change it and come back to it and try to give it come at it with a fresh approach. And usually all you're doing is you're giving your brain a chance to ease up a little bit and just think of something else. Go play a video game. Go watch a movie. Go pet a cat. I don't know. Do something that's not really art related, and then when you come back to it, you're kind of fresh and you can see things a little bit clearer. But anyways, thank you guys so much. Let me know in the comments if you enjoy these long videos. They're pretty much akin to like how the live streams go. But yeah, anyway, I'll let you guys go. I'm kind of burnt out here. I'm going to take a little bit of a break, come back and see how it looks, and then I'm going to get ready for coloring. Oh, the last thing, let's just say this was done. Like I say, I would go up to... I believe it's right here. You just go to layer, and it is merge layers, and that's going to convert everything into one layer. And then over on the expression, that's where I turn it into monochrome. And it's much easier for people to color. The file size is insane. Like, it's so small. So when you send it to your colorist, they'll be thankful they don't got to download a giant 400 meg file or something crazy. But anyway, thank you guys so much. I appreciate all the support, everything, all the cool things you guys are doing and stuff. Head on over to my website, jonathanrector.com. At the time of this recording, I'm sort of fixing it up, but I've had help from my brother to get a lot of the things on the site that I've wanted to have for a while. So go check it out. It should be mildly revamped. Check out the art blog, all the video tutorials that are on there that are even here on YouTube. And if you guys wanted to say thanks with a little bit of money, by all means, you can head on over to the store that should be up as well, if there's something there you like. Or if you just want to throw $1 my way or something saying thanks, head on over to patreon.com/JonathanRector. Anyway, thank you guys so much. I hope everybody's getting off to a great start in 2015. And I wish you all the best with your projects, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Keep reading comics, keep making comics, and I'll see you then. Bye.